Good morning, everybody. Today is Aleph Sivan, Rosh Chodesh Sivan. Tafshin Pei Beis, we're in Teres Menachem Sefer Mamar Tafshin Yud Dalid in the Mamar of Rosh Hashanah, the first Mamar of the book. It's a little late today, so it's going to be a short shiur. We are on page Zion. And we are 13 lines from the top. The line starts with Vov Veis Mem Kuf Aleph acronym. Or B'mokem Acher. You got it? Vov Veis.
Just sort of halfway down.
Yeah, almost halfway down. You got it? This is for you, Stephen. Page Zion. And we're up to here. You got it?
Yeah.
So the Rebbe is explaining the difference between the retraction of the divine energies on Rosh Hashanah versus the retraction of the divine energies on Shabbos and Yom Tov. That the retraction of Rosh Hashanah is greater. It's siluk, it's removal, because what's retracted is the light, the energy, the giving force, right? The projecting force of the spheres, of Malchus and everything that's behind Malchus, all the way to its original source, whereas the kelim, the vessels, the oisius, the letters remain. They're not retracted together with the lights and energies, with the forces, right? And therefore, insofar as they're concerned, and also the worlds, the realms that are created by them, remain completely devoid of any of the energies. Whereas on Shabbos and Yom Tov, it's called aliyah, an ascent. It does go up to higher levels, but also the kelim and the oisius, everything goes up. In other words, the vessels that are normally in a lower state of existence are refined on Shabbos and Yom Tov to the extent that they can lift up to a higher level and therefore able to function at that level as well and receive the divine energies. So the point being that on Rosh Hashanah, the removal is a greater one, insofar as the ones below are concerned, because it's complete removal. Now we discussed earlier about the first tzimtzum, the first contraction, which was quoted from the Kabbalah about the Ein Sof, Hashem's infinite light filling the entire hollow, and Hashem sort of contracting his divine energy to the sides and then drawing in a line of infinite light of Ein Sof into that hollow and void, and that gave rise to the whole Seder Shtalshalus, chain order of creation, and so on and so forth. That retraction, that contraction, that original contraction is called Tzimtzum Harishain, the first contraction. And as we discussed in previous shiurim, the Tzimtzum Harishain, the first contraction, there are contractions at levels that follow, especially when you transition from one realm to another realm, where the contraction is a greater one. It's a reduction, but it's a greater reduction than usual. Therefore, it moves into a new realm, a lower form of projection, and so on and so forth, until we come to our physical world. That tzimtzum is called tzimtzum b'bchinas siluk. That first contraction is considered the greatest of all contractions, whereby Hashem, as the expression is, he contracted his light, his energies to the side, and it left a hollow and a void, metaphorically speaking. Meaning to say, he removed the divine energy. It wasn't just a reduction, it was a removal. Similar to the idea that he's talking here on Rosh Hashanah. So you would think that the tzimtzum, or rather the helim, the siluk, the removal on Rosh Hashanah is like the first removal, the tzimtzum edition. Says the Rebbe, no. In another place in Chassidus, in Kabbalah, it's explained that the removal on Rosh Hashanah is even greater than the removal of the tzimtzum edition. The removal of the divine energy on Rosh Hashanah is in a certain sense greater than the removal of Hashem's divine energy that he removed when the first contraction took place, the first tzimtzum took place. In another place, it is explained that the removal of Malchus on Rosh Hashanah, as we just explained at length, and in the previous Shiurim, is even greater than the removal that took place during the first contraction. Why? It's a subtle point, but the point that is, the point that is explained in other places in Chassidus and in Kabbalah is that the Tzimtzum addition, the first contraction, is only insofar as the receivers are concerned. In other words, only insofar as those that perceive the Oir are concerned. But insofar as Hashem Himself, it's the same before as it was. It's the same after as it was before. This is a subtle point. I'm just going to say one word on it, one point on it, to just give us a little hook to be able to have a little notional perception of it. I think we discussed it also in one of the previous shiurim. When we look at light light is colorless. It doesn't have a texture, it's poshut, it's colorless. If you will put a film over the light, a colored film over the light will appear colored. Right? Put a green film over the light, I'll perceive the light as green. Did the light turn green? No. But I perceive it as green. The question is that perception real? Is the light that I see is now green? I mean, laws are made based on this. If the light is red, you stop. If the light is green, you go. You can't say I'm going on red because, give me a break. The red light and the green light are both the same light. You just put a film over it. No. It appears red, therefore that appearance is important, and therefore if you pass the red light, you've broken the law. Same thing, the green light, you go, right? According to Kabbalah and Chassidus, this is very, very important. What are the spheres? When we talk about Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, and so on and so forth. So we have an Oir, a light, metaphorically, and we have a Keli, a vessel, a film. The Chesed of the sphere, of the attribute, begins where? In the Oir, or once it goes through the film of the Keli, of the Chesed Keli.
Must be both.
What makes it Chesed? Hang on. In other words, to clarify the question even more, is the Oir of Chesed and the Oir of Gvura the same Oir? It's just that the Oir of Chesed, the light of Chesed, is clothed, comes via a film of Chesed, and therefore it's Chesed. And the Oir of Gvura goes via a film of Gvura, and therefore it's Gvura. This is a discussion among the Kabbalists. There's differences of opinions. The Arizal says, Oir is pshutim, kelim etziyarim, that the lights are simple, colorless, the energies are colorless. The kelim, the vessels are mitzuyir, they are the ones that form the color. But he also explains that the fact that this Oir is drawn to this keli means that inherently, potentially, it already has some kind of a leaning towards chesed. And this has some kind of a leaning towards gvura. It's a long discussion, it's a very deep concept. It's the subject of a number of mamorim in Tofresh Samachvav of the Rebbe Rashab, some of the classic, deep, fundamental mamorim Chassidus. But the point being, what Chassidus explains is that, so in other words, when we do a mitzvah, when we know, what does Chassidus explain? What happens when a Yid does a mitzvah? We draw down spheres, energies, new energies into the world. Which energies? Through the spheres. Some mitzvahs draw down the energy of chesed, some mitzvahs draw down the energy of gvura, some mitzvahs draw down a combination of spheres, right? And that's how the world continues to exist, and that's how we continue to bring additional godly energy into the worlds. If you were to, and of course we know that if you do mitzvahs on a very basic level, there's reward. If God forbid the opposite, it's opposite of reward. If we were to say that the perception, the way a divine energy appears, the way these godly forces appear through the film of the Keli is just my imagination, then what meaning is there to the whole purpose of the exercise? It diminishes the exercise of mitzvahs, of reward and punishment, and this whole basis of what we're doing. So Chassidus explains that the fact that a light that is pure and simple and colorless lends itself to appear as green or as red, depending on what film it transfers through, that's real. That's a characteristic of light. Not everything that exists has that characteristic that it lends itself to appear. In other words, to use the terminology of Chassidus and Kabbalah, there's the Gilui ha'oir ha'shayich la'atzmai. There's the revelation of light as it is associated with itself, with the light itself, with the energy itself. And there's the Gilui ha'oir ha'shayich la'zulas. There's the element of light as it is related to the other. So the aspect of the divine energy that is associated with itself, that's pure, that's simple. The aspect of the energy that relates to the other is also colorless, but it lends itself to appear in a different way. It lends itself to appear green, it lends itself to appear red. That's a characteristic of light. That's part of what light is, that's part of its nature, that's part of its makeup, it's part of it. That's the point. Right? So when we say, using this idea slightly to try to explain what the Rebbe says, when he says that when we talk about the first contraction, the Tzimtzum edition, yes, so far as the ones that it's projected onto, it's siluk, it's removal, but insofar as he's concerned, it's present. Whereas on Rosh Hashanah, so let's just finish the point. Concerning the Tzimtzum, it's not exactly the same point that I made earlier, but I'm just giving you some language and some thought process to be able to understand what he's saying. The first contraction, the removal, is only insofar as those that receive from the letters, meaning those that are below. But in the letters themselves, there is no change. The light, the energy remained in them as it was before. So in other words, what did Hashem do? The energy is present in the Oisius, right? He just blocked that part of the projection of the Oisius, those letters, how they project themselves onto those that are below. But insofar as the Oisius, the letters themselves are concerned, it's present. It's just not projecting on. The removal of the energy of the divine light on Rosh Hashanah, in that first part of Rosh Hashanah, from Rosh Hashanah Eve until we blow the shofar, is also insofar as the letters themselves are concerned. He removed the divine energy from the letters. For example, when one does work with weakened hands, in other words, without enthusiasm, the deficiency is not only that the work then is not done properly. It's not only not doing the work properly, but your hand with which you're doing the work is weak. Why? If you don't have any enthusiasm, the power that empowers you to do the work, not only the result, but your hands are weakened. You're not doing it. You're not functioning properly. So it's, again, we can go back to this. It's getting late. We have to get ready for davening. But this is the point. Tzimtzum Rishon, the first contraction, he just said to the letters, don't project. The light, the energies are all there. He says, no more projection. That aspect of the energy that projects, that has been shut down. That has been removed from whom? From those that it normally projects onto. On Rosh Hashanah, he removed it even from the Oisius, from the Kelim. It's not only don't project, he removed it. So what happens to the Keli? Something, it still has some latent energy because it itself has energy by virtue of its existence, but it's in a state of weakness. That's the durmita, that's the sleep. That's the state of slumber that the worlds find themselves on Rosh Hashanah Eve until after the blowing of the shofar. But now, we shouldn't go to sleep, we should wake up with a lot of energy and go and daven. Have a wonderful Chodesh.